never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Only shooting stars break the mold.
Welcome to another episode of the NRL Allstars podcast. Barnesy here, your host of the Allstars podcast, here for TLT round 3 for SuperCoach. Huge week. We do have cash rises after this week, so it's a really, really important time of the SuperCoach season. For this week, we do have Mikey back on board. Mikey, welcome back, mate.
Cheers, Barnesy. I know I was laid out last week, and it's good to be back in because I feel like it's a perfect week, really. It's one of the most important trade weeks of the season. We got price rises coming in, and it's been a pretty crazy start. And yeah, so there's a lot of talking points, and I know a lot of individual decisions to be made for your sides this week.
Yeah, there certainly is. There's a lot to decide on, and that's actually going to be our first segment. We're going to talk a little bit just on the strategy side of things with all these cheapies and with the price changes coming, what teams might want to just look out for a little bit. Before we do, though, how have you been going? How'd you go last round, and how are you going overall at the moment?
So the first round, 1,200, was a bit average, but realistically looking at my side, I hit a lot of the plays I did. The big issue that I think I can now see my side, and you'll understand with my trades, is I went pretty big on, I didn't have a fullback or half in the flex, and I went big on the forwards, and all of them haven't really worked out. So boosted last week. I worked out quick. My strategy was not to go cheapies because I wanted to make sure that Tomoko wasn't going to affect Martin, and I wanted to make sure that, Couchman could back it up again after Vegas. So instead, I went for double fullbacks, and I went for Folongo, which was pivotal. Normally, I wouldn't make a move like that and I'd wait and watch, but it was crucial because I actually vice-captained him. So I boosted when I didn't want to, brought in Stephen Crichton because I couldn't afford Carraz to get that loop in, and I ended up switching. I was bringing Ponga in from Laban, and I ended up switching Ponga to Tom, which actually was crucial, and I played Chester maybe 5 minutes before that Cowboys games instead of Leo. So I think I made 3 late decisions last week and ended up with an extra 160 points. So 1366. It's a good week, but still, I was only ranked 9,000 for the round. So it just shows how big the week was. But I'm in 23,000th, and yeah, I'm starting to get a bit of control back now. So some big moves to make this week. I'll probably boost again. I'm not really keen on boosting twice, but boost twice, get your team sorted, and then there are moves to be made, and I think we'll get into them, Barnesy, but I think the key that I'm working out is get the big players that don't scare you fast. It's a very simple tactic I do every year. Try and get as many of those big ones in. This year with the cheapies, your cap will allow you to do that, and then I can start potting up later because I think the teams that can get Walsh for his one, Cleary while the Panthers are hot, and then still juggling 3-gun fullbacks, and then you get your paint up. They're the teams that will excel over the next week, because if you miss out on one of those guys, I think they'll hurt you.
Yeah, I actually started quite well at close to a 1450 for the first week, and I was really happy with that. Ranked around the 4,000 mark. It wasn't a bad spot to be in to try and get into the top 1,000 this week early. But I ended up with a below 1,300. I think it was 1278 or something like that. And really, my team didn't look that bad, but all my decisions, I had a lot of late-minute ones this round, and they all backfired on me. I initially was going to get Harry Grant in, which I did do, and then I reversed it and changed it because Payne Haas was my vice-captain, and he was on 112 points, and Hooker was the spot that I could actually do the loop with because I had Hayward from the Bulldogs there. So I reversed Hayward back in, took Harry Grant out, did the loop, and then as we all know, Payne Haas lost points, and then all of a sudden, he's 102, wasn't quite as good as a 112, and I was really scared about Herbie going 150, and because of the head-to-head matchups, and this is a tough thing with SuperCoach when you're trying to play overall and you're trying to play head-to-head as well, and I'm full of head-to-head leagues. I was really, really scared of Herbie, and I went Euro to Herbie as my last trade, and I didn't want to boost either. So that worked out not great because Herbie didn't go that good anyway. I would have been better off taking the Haas points. And if I did take the Haas points, I would have been 40 points better off as it was, but then, or even more than that. But then the other big thing as well is that I lost Grant's points. So it was, just a disaster, just the way things that worked out. But my actual team wasn't that bad. So it's, I'm happy with where I'm placed at the moment. But big decisions for teams this week, Mikey. And on the strategy side of things, I think that it's really important to talk about the team builds and the cheapies at the moment, because when we get to market watch in a few minutes, it's dominated by cheapies, and for good reason. You've got to get these guys in when they're going to rise, and also if you've got duds that you've chosen that are going to drop a lot of money, like it makes sense to get rid of them now rather than later. So that's a normal, super coach purge that happens once we hit this round 3 and we're leading up to it. But one of the things that I think is a really important takeaway, this is a season, as we've talked about, where there's more cheapies and mids than ever. It's just so is it really the best thing to do to buy all of them? And I'm seeing teams doing it at real risk of their own point scoring. And I will say that I think the first 2 rounds we've kind of been a little bit lucky, because a lot of the time these cheapies, they're very volatile, right? And if you have a Nico Hines score of 40, they're very likely to bounce back and still be good. We can very well see some of these cheapies going to run of 3 or 4 weeks of scoring a 40 for 3 or 4 weeks, and you're playing 4 or 5 of them in your 18. It's flirting with danger. So I think that the advice that I'm giving everybody, and I'm keen to hear your opinion on it, is that you do need, a lot of the cheapies, and you do need to make as much money as fast as possible, but you've still got to make sure that in your 18 you've got enough point scoring and that you're set up, because even milking these guys, right, like it's going to take a lot of time to get some of these guys out of your team and to upgrade as well. So, I'm seeing some teams, for instance, where almost their entire pack is cheapies and mids. And I just think, wow, like if you're playing guys like Ryan Couchman, you could get a 32 out of him this week. And we're going to talk about ranking them a little bit later in Market Watch shortly. But, if you've got all the cheapies, including both Melbourne back rowers, I'd let a Ryan Couchman go, just because you can't have that many guys in that back row and not have any guns in your pack. So some of these builds I'm seeing, I think that we've gotten a bit lucky with some of the point scoring with the rookies. And I think that we've got to be a little bit cognizant of the game's still scoring points, and it's great to have all these money makers everywhere across your whole team. But if you don't have all the guns, then you're going to be in a bit of strife as well in coming weeks.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. I guess the opposite is if you if they do keep going ahead with it, and they do, the teams that stack up on as much cheapies as possible, the team value is going to be better later, where you can start making moves later if they can match your guns. Like example, I spent 6K, like 1.2 on Crichton and Yo, another 600 on Tino, and they've all been outscored by all these bunch of cheapies. If that keeps persisting, I think there's a world, like if you've got like Fafita and Lukey in your pack and you keep one gun, then you've got your bench with, let's say, Noel Martin, Couchman, Lasardi. That's kind of what I'm looking at. That's okay. Like this week, personally, I could see myself playing all 6 of my second rows. I did last week. For now, until, if anything, the cheapy centre wings, a lot of them have great matchups this week. So you could potentially sit out Couchman. Obviously, I haven't got all the way through team list yet. If Little was on that bench, it might change things. I do like your way of looking at it. We're going to get to it, but there's also a big host of mid-rangers with low break-evens. And because of it, and because of how cheap the other guys are, people are going to miss some of these guys, like Finifuyaki, Leka Halasima. And I have got to the Raiders team list. Tomoko's in the 19. Sasangi's held that centre spot with a very low break-even. He's very tempting for me even now to change. I'd be comfortable doing Couchman to Sasangi, but then the difference is, I said it before, I'm going to be bringing in a gun this week, which we'll get to, but I want to try and get Reece Walsh, Kinney up to Reece Walsh next week if I can. Right now, with the war chest that I've spent 600K on one player this week, it leaves him with 300K. So in my math and calculation, I'm like, okay, Walsh could hurt me with that draw coming up. The Broncos have lost 2 games. I'm very scared not to own him. So I'm thinking, okay, after this week, let's say he drops a bit of money. If I get someone like Couchman over Sasangi, it will leave me enough money not to make another trade to go up to him next round. So you've also got to balance who are the key guys you must get. And, whether or not you've got 2 paths there. You could get more of these mid-rangers and they could work out because they could end up becoming guns. But it's hard. It's a position where, like second row especially, there is so many guys you want and you can't fit them all in. But I think it's also hard to have one in the flex because we're seeing that these fullbacks
can't
and
do it.
halfbacks are still firing. So I'll fix that quickly. I got 3 fullbacks in last week, but yeah, the second rower is a headache. And I think for now I'm okay with value, and then maybe I'd be comfortable with having my one gun as someone like Leka, Finafuaki, or Sasangi at the moment.
Yeah, and
For now.
the key with those mid-range guys that could be guns this year as well is that more people than ever are going to stay off them. So their ownership's going to remain relatively low. In seasons past, people would have flocked to Finafuaki, and they're not going to this year because they're too spent up on having their rookies everywhere and their cash cows. It's too hard for people to have that sort of choice. So it does present value with some of those mid-range options. The other thing too that I'll just add to finish up is the guns will have bigger ceilings, and that is the important thing. Like, we might sort of say, look, it's fine to have one 600k wing, a 500k one, and the rest cheapies. That's all fine and good until Herbie Farnworth puts up 158 points against someone. And then you just go, oh, Jesus, I've just fallen so far behind. And it's going to happen. Latrell Mitchell can do it as well. There's teams that have faded Latrell Mitchell for a cheapie instead. Latrell's got a bye next week. People will sell him this week. I guarantee it. And he may very well come out and score 130 points. These ceilings on these guys are much better than the cheapies and the rookies. So it's something really that you've got to watch out for. Let's go straight to Market Watch and check it out. I think it's obviously we've sort of tipped our hat as to sort of a lot of the moves that are being made, but the trade outs, there's the obvious ones that need to. Kalen Ponga, really unfortunate injury, and he's got to go because he's hurt, obviously. But then we've got other guys injured like Flegler as well, but there's some mid-range guys and there's some guns. Now let's talk about the guns first of all. Tino Fa'asuamaleaui is the second most traded out player. Now, there's always a saying, never trade out a gun, but there's an asterisk to every single Supercoach strategy. And the asterisk with Tino is you can trade him out because he's playing 48 minutes a game and he's playing a different role under Josh Hannay, which we knew was going to happen potentially when there's coaching changes in NRL teams. And I don't see him playing much more than 48 minutes. And at his price point of 687,000, there's just too many other options. And if you need to free up cash for a gun, you could easily downgrade him in your second row for a Finafuaki and you're getting over $250,000 worth of cash to play with elsewhere. So he makes sense to me. I see Tino as a sell. Are you feeling the same way about him?
Yeah, I'm a Tino owner and I'm a Tino seller. I looked at a world where I wanted to keep Tino, but that break even's too high. If the minute roll doesn't change, mind you, both games has been so close. One was a forward to scoring a try, and the other one, well, he's going to score a try soon. I'm feeling it. But does the Titans get to the point where, they play this role, they keep losing games and they increase his minutes? Yes. But at that case, I'm willing to jump off and then jump back. Hopefully, if that's in 3-4 rounds, he could be in the sub 500. So it's just hard. It's a lot of money. These cheapies are on offer. It presents you with the fact of going down to these lower end guys who are scoring better and then using that money to get in guns like Cleary, Walsh, or make moves elsewhere. So I think with all the cheapies and middies firing, it allows you to build a war chest to then work out where you want to go next. And it's perfect for catching up or getting ahead. So, yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. Just the break-even's too high. If that minute roll doesn't change, and if he doesn't score a try, he's staying at about 50 points, which isn't the worst, but at the price it is.
Yeah, and there's a couple of guys that I'm going to group together. Two Cowboys players that are very popular sells. We've got Reid Marnie, and Marnie, I guess, was very popular in the preseason, came out and scored a solid 52 in round one, scored 41 on the weekend and only had 56 minutes with Sonny Luke coming on and spelling him. And I actually thought that Luke was awful. He had like 3 errors, I believe, and they were really bad ones. But he's in jersey 14 again, and I just think that that's going to be a risk going through every week. I guess the other thing to consider, though, is who you're going to go to with Reid Marnie. Now, if you're going up to a Grant at the moment, to me, that's an easy trade to make and just rectify the mistake that you made at hooker. If you're going sideways sort of thing, I would just stick with Reid Marnie. There is a potential at home in Townsville against the Gold Coast Titans for the Cowboys to bounce back, and I think that they will. I don't think they're going to get all those 6 against them at home, even if they are real disciplined. Reid Marnie might very well find attack this week. It always happens in Supercoach, doesn't it? The guy that's so highly sold ends up scoring a try on the weekend or getting a try assist, line break assist from hooker. I could see Reid doing that. To Grant, I totally see it. 2 other options, I'm not quite as sold.
Yeah, I have Reed Marnie. I pulled the pin, but if I didn't and got him last minute, but if I didn't, I would have Huelu, who's been dropped because Robson's back, which we'll get to. So, look, my plan was always to get Reed. Hopefully, he can make a bit of cash. If he doesn't, he can go down to Brendan Smith. Hopefully later. So I'll sit him there. He's not the worst play if you have to use him. Storm don't have an early buy if you got Harry Grant with him. 100% agree with you. Sell to Grant. You need him. And with Marnie, yeah, I just hold on. He's not the worst play against the Titans this week. I personally won't play him if I need to. I'd rather roll the dice on a Faye Marnie and play fifth centre wing against the Cowboys this week, who are just giving up points for fun. So I'd prefer to do that. But yeah, I'd say right now 7,800 trades. I'd say a good 90% of them would be going up to Harry Grant.
Yeah, you got also, I guess, if you're in a luxury trade position where you don't have things to fix and you've got all the cheapies and you need money to upgrade somewhere, a little sneaky one might be, a Marnie down to a Haywood to give you the extra 70k that you need for an upgrade elsewhere. They're at least probably going to be about the same, I think, and Haywood's got his buy out of the way now, so that's possibly an option.
Or Crossland, if you wanted to go down. I know he scored 28 on the weekend out of position, but it's not really that great. I guess the hard thing with Haywood is he hasn't played his second game yet. And I think, his score's inflated due to the fact that he obviously played 90 minutes in that first one.
But they don't have anyone to take him off either. Which I guess the Cowboys they do.
True. Yeah.
I mean, it's why I favoured Haywood in the preseason. So, I mean, I think I still probably favour him like that now. But, yeah, it's not a trade that you need to make, I think.
So many other spots to make money, I think, at the moment. So I'd really target them. I feel like if you're doing that kind of trade down to someone, I think it's a big luxury without seeing your second game from Haywood.
Yeah, it depends it's very much on the team build as well, on what you can do with Reed Marnie. But to Grant, that's a no-brainer, I think. Scott Drinkwater's obviously his teammate. He was heavily sold last week. He's getting heavily sold again this week. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to defend Scotty Drinkwater again. Yes, he's going to lose money. He's got 171 break even, the biggest in the game. Totally get it. You're going to lose a lot of money. If you're scared of that, then I'm not going to say don't sell him. But I said last week, I think it presents a massive opportunity. He didn't get down to pod ownership. He's at 11% at the moment. On the current trends, he's going to be below 8%, probably around, in that 7 to 8% range in ownership. Playing the Gold Coast Titans, where he's got 3 tons in a row against them and has absolutely massive scores against them normally, and it's at Townsville. And I actually, unlike other people, I was quite encouraged with him last week because to me, the Cowboys just got blown off the park. And the fact that he got close to 60 still and got the try assists that looked pretty good. And I don't think he looked uncomfortable. I didn't think that he looked like he was getting hurt when he was running the ball. Another week with that injury to heal a bit more. I'm actually really enjoying having Scott Drinkwater this week as a hold myself. And you know what, Mikey, I don't care about the money. If he loses 70k this week, I feel like that he'll get that back later anyway, but I also feel like money is so easy to make at the moment. I'm not really worried about holding that if I can potentially get a ton out of it, and I think that he's got potential for a ton. Yeah, I'm not, again, same as last week when I spoke on the podcast, I'm not going to talk people out of selling Drinkwater, but I do think there's huge opportunity to hold him as well, and I'm going to hold him.
Yeah, look, if I held on a week, I would have. I was very keen on holding. The only reason I didn't is because I wanted to watch a cheapies another week. I thought to myself, if I sell Drinky to Tom or Ponga, I have enough money to go Laban to Falongo, which was critical for me last week. I would have been screwed without Falongo last week. So, yeah, I'm happy to do it, but I agree with you. The Cowboys haven't played a game at home this year yet. They're in Vegas, so they haven't been at Townsville, and Drinky loves playing at Townsville when he's up against a team that he absolutely loves scoring against. You'd have to have balls, but to be honest, with that injury he's carrying, he managed to still score 60 points, and each week I think that injury slot, surely he starts to get a bit better at dealing with it, and it would take a big set of balls, but the captaincy options this week are hard if you don't want to be boring with Payne Haas. You could do a Hail Mary on him.
I am hanging off my chair with the size of my balls at the moment. I am ready to captain him, I'm telling you.
I think earlier in the competition, it's easier to take these risks because seasoned, SuperCoach players like ourselves, Barnesy, I know that if I made a mistake, I could claw it back later. But these kind of moves can get you ahead early, and then you can start playing into cruise control. Because obviously with the team failures are going to start to soar, and people start to get these guns pretty quick. So, yeah, it's going to be a pretty good pod for Drinky I'd
He'll be
definitely hold.
1%, I reckon, on the C. I reckon he'll be 1% captained.
Yeah.
He's got
I
an
think so.
86 average in 10 games against the Titans. 86 average in 10 games with a 144 high. Last 3 games are tons. And you could just, I'll tell you, he's the last game of the round, mate. And that's going to be like full 4 weeks to recover just about from those ribs. And it's not going to be completely out of the realm of possibility that all of a sudden, wow, he's healed now after a month. He picks up that kicking tee. You know, if that happens against the Titans, wow, that's just such an added bonus on him. And particularly when you've got all these teams that sold him last week to Kalen Ponga that are now not going to sell Kalen Ponga drink water because of that break even they're scared off and because of our egos. And I've got the same ego. Don't worry, everyone. I will not go back to that because I just sold him, right? So it's just a perfect storm where if he goes bang, it's going to be such valuable points early in the season.
Yeah, I guess the flip side to it is the Cowboys have looked awful.
Awful.
They've looked awful. And in
Yes.
the first round, they did show that they could score points, and the Titans gave up a lot of points in round 1. They got a lot better in round 2. They should have probably won that game. So there's every world here that the Titans can romp them. But it's at home. I'd probably hold. And like you said, there's enough. It doesn't matter about losing money from a gun like this if you're making a shitload elsewhere. Like, obviously, you want to pump up your team value, but like you said, if you can bank 100+ points this week, it's going to be good with 10 or 11% of Tom owners sitting him on the pine this week because they're on a bye. So the 3 fullback attack for those that have it, he could really help you.
Other team that's being sold quite heavily is the Roosters at the moment. Sam Walker and Angus Crichton, top 6 being sold right now. And look, I understand, particularly Sam Walker, I understand if you're going to go to a Nathan Cleary and you've just decided, look, I stuffed up, Cleary's going to be great, and you want to chase another ton like you did last week. I get it. I'm just going to point out, though, the Roosters do have that round 5 bye, which I think is scaring people off. But this week against Penrith, it is at home at Allianz, which is a good thing. They went okay last year, SuperCoach-wise, against the Panthers. But the week after, Manly at 4 Pines right now, I think that we know that Manly look absolutely shot. And that's a really good matchup. Like, if I get to that Manly matchup in round 4 and I don't have any Roosters, I'm feeling a bit worried about it. And then you go a little bit further and go, okay, well, after the bye, they're away versus Sharks, not the best game. Then they've got Newcastle. Then they've got the Dragons. And you go, wow, that's a good couple of weeks. Broncos, look, they're giving up points at the moment. It's an Allianz. That's not that bad. Then they have the Titans and then they have the Cowboys. It's actually after, from that Manly game in round 4, if that bye wasn't there, I think someone would look at that run and go, that's Roosters time. The bye kind of, makes it hard. So I'm one that's holding Angus Crichton. I agree that he hasn't looked as good as what we hoped, but he's also not that expensive and he still scored 54 points a game. He hasn't been scoring low. And I feel like those tries are coming, as with Sam Walker. That 100 score is going to come in the next month of football. So I'm not going to say you can't sell these guys, Mikey, but as always, it's important to look at the flip side. And I actually think the Roosters from round 7 are going to be a team that people are going to want to own and have a piece of.
Yeah, it's interesting. Crichton's my only piece of the Roosters, and I've currently got him sold because I need to get to these cheapy second roles that I didn't get, and I don't have the spots because I already have Lasati.
That'll be a lot of teams, yeah.
It's do I sell him or Isaiah Yeo? And I knew coming onto this podcast today, you're going to make me flip in my trade. And you bring up all good and solid points. The main thing I wanted to see was teamless and who takes that utility spot this week. It's Freddie Lussick, which means Mitch Kenny. It looks like Yeo's not going to play 80 most weeks, so you could see me flip the script. The only thing I would say is I am disappointed in Angus Crichton scoring 54 in the first week, included a try off a kick, but that puts his base really, really low. And I think when the Roosters click, someone like him is like, I'm not worried about a break even of 80. If he dishes up another 50, that doesn't bother me because when the Roosters will start putting scores on teams, could be the Manly. If they do that, Crichton's got 2 tries in him in 120. And he's already a pod, like at about 11-12% and 4,000 and jumping off him. So
yeah, exactly.
I guess more so it kind of maybe warrants that Crichton is a better hold than Yeo because personally it looks like Yeo's not bad at all, but if he keeps playing the same role, he's going to be capped at around that 50 to 60 points, where I think Angus Crichton's got that upside to go 80 plus more than what Yo does.
Yo's got to
yeah.
go 10 times out of 10 over Angus, in my
But
opinion.
it's
There's no way I could hold him.
it's a poor matchup this week. Panthers, we're back. The SuperCoach killers are back. And to be honest with you, I know the Roosters went really well against Panthers last year, but we started the worst we have every other season. Like Blazers come back fired, Casey's come back firing, and in all honesty, I don't think the Roosters will score more than a couple tries. I know you're going to disagree with me, Barnesy, but I think the Panthers beat up is back, and they do love a game at the Roosters, and they do like playing at Allianz. So I could see them just put on another, tough grind, but they get away with like a 24-10 or 18-10 kind of scoreline.
You know who else likes playing at Allianz?
The
Roosters do. Yeah, no, I think that the Panthers are playing well at the moment, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Roosters lose at all. So,
but you got to look at the bigger picture. You're right.
Yeah, you do, and I just think that Yo's a sell anyway. I think
round 5 bye is also what kind of makes it more. You've got to think about these decisions because you sell him if he starts going on a roll. You can't bring them all back, so you got to say goodbye to some of these guys.
Anzac Day, Angus Crichton against the Dragons has gone 150 points. So I'm just going to leave it at that. That's probably really covering off most of the sells. I think the other ones are, it's pretty understandable.
Isaiah Yeo, we kind of just touched on, but
yeah.
I think you could hold a week. Freddie Lussick's on the bench. You could hold a week because if those attacking stats come, like if you've got all these problems, I think you can wait a week on Yeo. Because I knew if I didn't sell Yeo this week, Yeo would probably go to a Kai Pierce-Paul, a Sasangi, a Leka maybe next week. So,
but what are you waiting for though? And that would probably be my counter. Like what are you holding for to see? Because I know like with Angus, I'm holding because I know that he can score points.
I'd be holding, or I'd more so be holding on the fact that I know he's going, but I have other second rolls I'm grabbing this week. I think Yeo could score better than Crichton, and I wanted to, in the flex, I'm getting another position. So I didn't want to do 3 in second row. So that was my thought process. If I kept Yeo, I think Yeo can score better than Crichton this week. And if I'm going to sell both of them, then it makes sense to do that. But
yeah, that makes sense totally. If you're planning on selling Yeo anyway, I just mean more from if you're not going to sell Yeo, what is going to stop you from doing that? What are you expecting to see? Because you're probably seeing it at the moment. But look, we don't have a lot of time, so we need to get on to the buys. Farlogo, he's a must, absolute must. Do you agree?
Yeah, you said it last week, and he brought that down. Like he might have some low games, but he's just showed how big of a ceiling he's got. And that break even, like unfortunately, if you've already got 3 gun fullbacks, like even a sideways trade of Kinney to him, you got to do it. You have to get him.
He's a legitimate captain option already. Like for this week against the Broncos, and most weeks now he's probably going to be a vice captain option if he's in the right spot. We will get some low scores from him, so don't be surprised if he throws up a 34 or something in the coming weeks because it's going to happen at some point during the season. But his ceiling is too good. Their draw is good. And one of the things that I banged on about in the off-season, because a lot of people were like, why are you choosing Farlongo over Kinney? I think not only is he a better attacking player, better suited to Supercoach, he's playing for a good team. And that makes such a big difference. He's got the opportunities, he's got the field position, and he's got the playmakers around him to put him in the spots. Harry Grant, I'm not going to say he's a must, but I think if you're trading to a hooker, Mikey, then Harry Grant is the guy. And if you're not doing it this week, you're losing a lot of value because he's obviously got a good break even of -11. And if you're waiting, you could end up paying, $100K more very shortly for him. And to me, the $600K price point makes him an extremely good buy for this week. We have a couple of other guns in this list. Basically, Latrell Mitchell, I saw him as almost a must in the preseason. Nothing has changed my mind. I don't care how well the Tigers played on the weekend. I think that he is. Nathan Cleary, I do not think is a must at all, but I do think that he's an option and he's coming off a ton. I will just point out to people that obviously the Panthers have got the Roosters, which could be, like Mikey said, an 18-10, not great scoring game. They do have a nice one against the Eels, but then they've got the Bulldogs and the Storm in successive weeks. So it isn't the greatest month, and I certainly wouldn't be pulling my team apart to get to Cleary at this point. To me, I almost see Cleary as a bit of a luxury trade, and I'd certainly have him behind getting in, say, a Harry Grant if you're looking at upgrading to some guns.
Yeah, I agree and disagree. He's a guy I'm bringing in this week. The way I see it is, if I'm sacrificing a Yeo or Crichton and a Tino, I've got a war chest, and I'm going to be able to do like Atkinson's not a sell, but I'm more so at this point thinking just get to Cleary because the Panthers look good. They look like how they did at the pass, and if they're going back to that kind of mold, he's a scary guy not to own. It doesn't kind of matter who he versus. So I'm also thinking get Hines and Cleary. I think he's a genuine captaincy option this week too. He's doing all those little things right. He's getting 40-20s. He's back to his best. He's hungry. And I'm scared not to have a hungry Cleary. Like, he scares the shit out of me on those games. Like, we always knew not starting with him. I knew I'd need him by about round 6 or 7. But I thought the Panthers would start good, but they've started a little bit better than I thought they have. And the fact that they've already took down the Broncos and Sharks that we saw as tough matchups, and he's scored decently, had a contentious try to say he didn't get in the first one. It also just thinks, you know what? Just get him. Don't worry about him. I can go Atkinson to him. I've got enough people making money, so it doesn't bother me to have a cheapy half. And then all of a sudden, I've given myself more of a captaincy option. So if I'm losing 2 guys who I thought were guns in my second row, but gaining someone like Cleary, kind of makes up for it. Like what you're saying before, I don't want to use 3 trades for cheapies. You need to
Yes.
balance it out with the gun. So, look, I'm still and ahhing about it, but at this stage, I want to do that trade. And with the other one, I don't own Latrell. But the issue with Latrell is I brought in Crichton last week to loop. I want to give him 1 week, and then next week.
Yeah.
And because
You put yourself in a corner.
Yeah, well, even if I didn't, I probably wouldn't go. I could have gone Iro to him this week, but I think no matter what, because I have the buy next week, he's got to break even to 0. I've got cash. I've got 300K still. I'm happy to wait and watch. Yeah, if he scores 100, he's probably going to go up over 100K, but I'd still spend 700 on Latrell if I had to. So maybe wait a week. I know it's rough, but right now I'm in a position where I either sell Crichton without getting another look at him. I've got 5 cheapies. The cheapies are scoring well. I can't do a cheapie to him. So it's a tough spot I found myself in, but out of everyone else I can grab, he's the only guy I can't. So he's close to a must, but
Latrell
it's hard.
is going
Break
to
even to
be
0.
up
Scary.
against
I haven't looked at the Tigers matchup, but it's not.
Macassini and Lalili.
No, but they played left, so you're sure? Didn't they play left? They played left, so it wouldn't be.
But yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
So it'd be whoever the other centre was.
Now he's got to go up against Skelton and Taruva.
Who's a winger. Far out.
Mate,
I know this week
honestly,
is
if you're worried, and if any teams are in Mikey's position, just my opinion, if you're worried about guys that can really hurt you, I would get in Latrell this week over Nathan Cleary. And I'm not saying that
Cleary is a guy that will hurt you more longer term. I think over the next 3 weeks.
Longer term for sure. No, I'm not talking longer term. I'm talking this week. This week, I think Latrell is odds-on favourite to outscore Cleary this week.
But with the buy as well, it kind of makes it that I'm looking at it not as just a 1 week.
Just
play.
Get Nathan Cleary next week then.
No, I honestly think the Panthers could put a score on the Roosters. I know you're not going to like that, but there's an avenue where they can. They've done it before.
Okay. I understand. Just to be clear to everybody that's buying Nathan Cleary, I'm not saying he's not a good buy. I'm just saying that I think he's a good buy. And for most teams, I would say, yeah, go for it. But if you're tossing up between a Harry Grant and a Cleary this week, I'd say go for Harry Grant first.
I've got all those other guys, bar Latrell.
Yeah. So Harry Grant's got the -11 break even. He's the one that presents the most value at 600K, and he's been turning up every week so far, 2 weeks in. So I think that he's ahead as far as a buy goes. Now, we've got all the cheapies in the second row and the mids in the second row. I'm going to controversially say, if you've got absolutely all the cheapies that there is in the second row and you're getting Ryan Couchman this week, I think that Ryan Couchman is a guy that you can sacrifice. And I know that he looks really good and I know that he's scored really good, but he is the only guy out of the cheapies that everyone's buying that is not an 80-minute player and is a bench player. Yes, he has scored well, but he's also the only guy that both weeks that he's scored well, he has been heavily influenced by injuries, HIAs, and everything that's happened in that Dragons team. So to me, he's played 56 and 57 minutes in extenuating circumstances both weeks. It looks to me like he could easily be playing 40 minutes, and that could still be, 42 points, still could be solid, but it's going to put him behind everybody else to me, and certainly not someone that you can start in your team. So I don't mind. Like, he's obviously a good buy. He's got a -65 break even. It's going to make money. But if you've got other guys to buy instead, I'd be buying them. And if you've already got them all, then look, I think that you could bypass him. Is that super controversial?
No, it's not super controversial. It's just hard because I was thinking of doing the same thing and then maybe getting like a Finifuaki or Sasangi, because there's a lot of tempting guys on offer. And if you skip someone like him, you can get them. But although Little is back this week, and this will be the real determining of how many minutes he's got going forward, the break even's so low. And, if this guy can churn out at least 40 minutes, and I think in the first 2 weeks, I think the coach is going to want to. And if he can get at least 40 minutes with his very good PPM, he can still get about 45. And if he can do that for the next couple of weeks, he's got a minus -65 break even. He's only got to get 35 to make 80K. So even if he's only a 3-4 week option and we flip him to a gun second rower, it's hard to not pass on that because you can really see this guy, even if his minutes shrink a little bit, he's going to go up 200K in the next 3-4 weeks. And then the flip side to that is if an injury happens in that pack or a HIA, he's the first guy that his minutes increases. It's happened the past 2 weeks.
It's happened the past 2 weeks.
It's just scary. Like the more I think of it, I go, sometimes don't overthink these guys. Everyone's going him. He's going to make some good money. He's bottom dollar and his PPM's really good. And it's not like he's like a fresh newbie. He kind of started the same time as his brother, but he just kind of fell down the order a little bit because of all his injuries. So it's more so just, I'm just like, you know what? It's tempting to go on these other middies, but what, I'm going to spend an extra 150K when I know this guy's going to make me some cash and they've got a decent draw coming up. He could score a try. Now you could say that to everyone, but the Dragons draw is good.
I'll make the two arguments against him, right? And this isn't because, like, in any other year, you just buy him, right? And it's just that we're sport for choice at the moment. So I don't want it to sound like I'm like an anti-Ryan Catchman. Like, I think that he's a good buy still. But I'd buy Lasardi over him. I'd certainly buy Noel Martin over him. There's no way in hell that I would buy Ryan Couchman and not own Lasardi or Martin already.
Yeah,
and people might be doing that. And the other one that I think there is a good argument for is Fini Fuyaki is 0.6% owned at the moment before trades. Only 2.8% of people are bringing him in. He's gone bang, bang the first 2 weeks of the season playing 80 minutes. And he's a guy who can make you, a couple $100,000, but also could be played every week. And at the moment, he's gone 82 and 102 with back-to-back tries.
And a try assist in that 100 as well. So that's his attack's been coming his way.
It has been. And I've been really impressed with his base. He's got a raw base of 58. Now, he might not keep any of this up, Mikey, but okay, it's such a better investment than a Couchman if you don't have many players to play every week in your second row forward. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm seeing teams sell with a second row forward, they've got a Yo or an Angus Crichton that anchors their second row forward, and then maybe, a David Fafita and everyone else cheapies. If you're selling an Angus or a Yo to get to a Couchman, your second row forward is all of a sudden very, very slim because you've got to start 3. And to me, it's a much more, I guess, solid point scoring lineup if you can put Fini Fuaki in there instead. And he's only 200K more, and I think a lot of teams can find that money. I just feel like there's a real good argument for Fini Fuaki over a cheapie like Couchman if you've got all the other cheapies. And no one's getting Fini Fuaki. Fini Fuaki could be the breakout guy this year. I know he's not going to average 92 like he has been at the moment, but based on his work rate, based on his role, because he's never had an 80-minute role, a whole season at the Dolphins, he could easily average 70. And that could be like a prime elite tier 1 keeper type of guy.
Yeah, he's a guy that's done really well for me before and he's tempting. But I think if I was going to take a snipe at one of them, I'd probably prefer to go Sasangi. Sasangi's got a lot more risk and job security issues.
So much risk, mate.
But 50K less, he has a centre wing dual, and he just keeps putting this guy out of a spot. His base and work rate's up so high. I guess the flip side is, job security, and at the same time, their draw is tough. But
wouldn't you pay 50K for 50K? You're paying 50K for job security and for a guy that's a forward with a 58 raw base. I think that's worth the 50K.
Or you spend the 200K less in him and just get Couchman
and
worry about it later. And that's you know what I mean? That's got a work rate of, let's say, Fini Fuaki's attack's dry up. You're probably paying 200K less for maybe 10 to 15 points less if he doesn't get attack. And that's not to say that Couchman can't find an offload for a try assist or get over the line. He's done it before. So it's a tough one, but I get what you're saying. You get yourself a super pod with attacking upside, and the Dolphins are scoring well. The only flip side in that is they do have a bye coming up soon too. So I think that's something to look at when you're weighing up if you can't decide. The problem is we're going to have a lot of disagreeing and agreeing because there's just so many options.
So many. But this is the other key thing with guys like Fini Fuaki, right? Because everybody's getting in every cheapie at the moment and scrambling for them all. A lot of the sides are starting to look very similar. Like I think at the start of the season I was getting really keen on so many teams picking different guns because there was so much money available. But now all of a sudden, a lot of teams are looking similar. So guys like Fini Fuaki, they can really, open up your season and give you some early success that's going to be maybe hard to come by in the next couple of weeks if a lot of these teams are the same. And the edges that he's playing against, the Sharks away is not good. But then he's got the Broncos edge that even if they're playing well, the Broncos edge is normally points for SuperCoach. And then he's playing a home game against Manly, though it's an away home game somewhere at KO Stadium. So I'm not hating the next 3 weeks before the bye either. And does play round 12 as well. So you're getting him now at 450k as a potential keeper that's going to give you the round 12 big buy coverage as well, which I think is a really key, important factor in buying him as well long term. Other guy that's being bought at the moment as a more expensive mid, he's probably too expensive to be a mid even, is Tanner Boyd. Now, what do you make of this one? New Zealand's coming up against the Newcastle Knights, and the arguments are all going to be Boyd has looked good, first of all, and 131 points and 91 points. Bloody oath, he's looked good. But I think that people see those scores and expect him to have like this massive break even. And it's only a minus 41 break even because he's almost 600k already. And that's the important thing. You're paying a lot of money for him. The other important thing is that, Mikey, they've only played at New Zealand so far. Now, their draw the next 2 weeks is good. But Newcastle looked good last week. I know Ponga and Brown are out, but they do get Fletcher Sharp back. And it's a big trek from New Zealand over to Newcastle as well. So I'm not sure that they're going to smash Newcastle as much as what people think that they are. But obviously he's in great form, and he is the form half of the competition when you're looking at SuperCoach points. So very hard to say to someone, don't buy him. But there's just so many, again, like we've said the whole podcast, so many options at halfback.
Yeah, it's tough. I just think I'd rather wait another week and grab Adam Dewey or grab Cleary over Tanner Boyd. Like, yeah, he's been great, but they're really good in New Zealand and they played in New Zealand. I want to see what they look like out of it. Like, they've shown that they've got hard and that team can perform well, but look, he's been playing really good. Like, if he was in, like, say, cheap 400s, then I could get around it. But he's not. He's not at all. And like the Warriors, don't forget, they've scored a big amount of points both those games. You know, cashing in on those goal kicks, and he scored a try in each of them. So the law of averages say he's not going to be able to keep that up. So I feel like
I'd like to go off the last 3
to
years too. Like if you look at the last 3 years, he's scored in an 80-minute role basically, 59 average, 34 average, and 49 average, and he's currently averaging 111. You know, even if he has a career year, I think it'll be a 65 type of year, and that's if he has a career year. He's partnering with a rookie half for this week in Hansen, and are playing away for the first time. I just think in other years you'd go, yeah, look, grab the money. He's got that rolling 91 next week, still in his break even. But this year, there's so much money. Halfback's such a pivotal position and critical. I just don't know if you need to do it. But, you know, fortune favours the brave. About 5 people probably started with him and are reaping the dividends. So who are we to complain if somebody decides to jump on the bandwagon because he could keep it up? Let's have a look at the team list for this week really quickly, particularly for C and VC focus before we finish up. Before we do, I'm just going to mention the great sponsor and partner of the NRL Allstars podcast in One World Courier. You can go to oneworldcourier.com.au today and create a free account. If you or the business that you work for or own has any freight or shipping needs, they are the people to talk to. On their website, when you create the free account, make sure you put NRL All-Stars podcast is where you heard about them. They'll give you a great rate card to start with. But basically, when you sign up and sign into that website, put in what you want to send, where you want to send it, and they'll show you all the different providers and carriers that you can use. You just select whatever one you want for whatever price you want, and bang, they do it all for you. It's that simple. So jump on oneworldcourier.com.au today and go and check them out. First game, mate, and look, it's one that's going to be a bit of an interesting one because it's the Raiders' first game at GIO Stadium, and I don't think they've started the season as well as what they'd hoped, and they're playing the Bulldogs. Interesting ones in this one. I think we've talked about most of the Raiders, but the couple of key points for this one for me was Jacob Carraz is the forgotten gun, and I've looked at it so many times and really, really wanted to get him in. People all of a sudden forget that Carraz killed it in round 1, ended up with 99 points against the Dragons in Las Vegas and then had the bye. He is a really good buy this week still at 746,000. People aren't going to get on him at all. I love him for this matchup, and he was my highlight of it. How can I get Jacob Carraz into my team?
In case short, Barnesy, on going Carraz over Crichton.
Brutal.
Which the only way I could do it if I took Ponga down to somebody cheaper, which wouldn't have ended up well for me. I ended up going up to Tom, so I can't complain because I feel like my team looks good. But I would have loved to have Carraz. I guess if I got Carraz, it also wouldn't give me the option to go to the Trell if I want to change my mind. But yeah, I think you'd want, now that their buy's done, you'd want to get onto them. And the fact they're on the left as well. I guess that's why I went to Crichton next, because I was like, I've got a piece of that left generally he'd probably get the TC there. So it's why after I couldn't afford Carraz, I was like, my next best option is definitely Crichton. But yeah, apart from that too, the fact that Sasangi's saying in the centres, Chamoka's out on that bench spot, it is good news and job security news for Noah Martin. So I think don't overthink him. Get him. He's I wouldn't say safe play, but he's a good play most weeks. Sasangi didn't play 80 last week either. He played 72 minutes, so he was a guy that was coming off.
The Roosters and Panthers. Look, I'm really looking forward to this. Could be a really good matchup, I think. Bit of a shame that Billy Smith isn't there because he's been really good defensively the last year especially. But that's the main change, aside from Liam Martin on the Panthers side coming in. And a couple of things I was going to highlight on this one. And Lussick, coming in.
Places Cogger for the HIO.
Isaiah Papali'i is named to start again. And I've been super impressed with him and really wanted him as an option in the preseason. He has now gone 57 and 79, and the 57 was only in 67 minutes. He played the full 80 last week, 79 points with 55 raw base, and had the nice base power going in that one as well. So I think at 579,000, he's another forgotten guy. Fini Fuiaki is a forgotten guy in the mid-range category for second row forward. Papali'i is another one. And certainly, I think it's going to be controversial, but if I'm selling Yo and I want another gun and I'm not sold on Halasima at the moment at his price with his role security, I wouldn't mind going Papali'i and just having a crack at it because he's very low owned, can find a try. He's got Parramatta the following week, his old club that he loves playing against. I really think that he's in for a big season this year.
I'd like to see another week. I think the break-even's low enough to see another week, to see now that Garner goes to the bench. You've got Garner and Sorensen's in there. And Billy Phillips has looked amazing. He's come out of nowhere. Good, yeah. He's been really good, just kind of like a Yomo, just gives that ball. So those guys are going to have minutes. I think Freddie Lussick, if they use him, will play minimal. As I said, will push the number Kenny to lock, which tells you that I still think with that bench makeup, Yo's not going to play the 80, probably plays the 65 to 70 or 70-ish minutes. So I'd like to wait and see. The fact you can slot him at front row, I personally still have Flegler. He could be a great replacement for him, and I'll wait an extra week, but he could be sneaky because in that Panthers lineup, if they're clicking, if they, put a score on at some point, he's got attacking upside, Papali'i, and you can slot him at your front row. So I really like it, but it's just when we've seen all these Papali'i, Martin, Sorensen, and Garner together, very rarely does he get 80 minutes. So that's why I'd need to see it happen first.
VC options are very obvious in this one. Obviously, Cleary is going to be the popular one, and it's definitely a good option. The pot option, though, is Teddy. If you're one of the Teddy owners at only 13% ownership, a VC on him could be a nice, shrewd move. 19 in one of his 2 games last year versus the Panthers. I know they're very different this year, but with the attacking upside and the fact that it's only a VC, I see that as an option if you want to try and get a sneaky one in that's going to be a very, very low VC option.
Yeah, I think I'll have something on Cleary if I get him. If I have him, I think I prefer to captain him straight out because I think he's going to get that 90 to 110 scoreline. He does have a really good average. Mind you, Barnesy, at Allianz Stadium round 7 last year, he scored 113 points. The 2 times before that at Penrith, he scored above 80. So 3 games in a row now, above 80. So I think more likely you're not going to get a loopable score with the other option. So I think I prefer to captain. I'll probably look at straight captaining. If I had Latrell, though, it's different. I could see a VC Cleary to see Latrell. Beautiful. But if I go Cleary, I don't have that choice.
Obviously, the other big news as well is that Robson is in. And
that is big news.
Early. So Yellow is dead.
Ouch. Not even a price rise.
No, and look, I'm just going to
There's always a risk.
I'm going to defend the people that did it and the people that talked it up, and I'm going to defend myself as well. There's people that were like, oh, but, he could come back early. There's rumours, and the rumours were in, Roosters forums and stuff, and it's like, look, you can only go off what the information is that you have. And everywhere, NRL.com, everywhere else had him coming back around round 7, and they have got the buy coming up as well. Robinson said that he was going to take it easy on him. Robson himself said that, it's definitely a 6 to 8 week injury. You can only go on what's there, okay? And sometimes the information's out the window and these things happen. It's not really going to hurt anyone too much, but I still stand by the decision, and I'll support some of the other content creators as well on it being an okay decision to go for because I didn't want to spend at hooker and, can't foresee these things. There was no solid info that Robson was definitely going to come back this week. Other thing that's important too is, does Watson take minutes off Robson now? Because I was kind of surprised that Trent Robinson decided to play Watson so heavily at hooker in the rotation. So a couple of key things to watch in that one. But I tell you what, I'll throw Nathan Cleary and Tedesco out the window and tell you who I prefer to VC. That is in this next game. Suafolongo against the Brisbane Broncos at Amy Park. I'm 100% preferring to have the VC on this fella. 155 points last week, and that is a standout for this one. I do think the Broncos are on a slide, and I do love playing all the Storm players, and that's why I'm also big on Harry Grant. I think the Broncos' ruck can look awful at the moment, and even if they step up, it can still be pretty bad. And I think Harry Grant's going to tram with shreds, and I'd be very worried not having anything on Farlongo this week that he's going to go 100+ again.
Look, I had something on him last week, but surely this run's going to come to an end at some point. And the Broncos did beat the Storm and upset them at the end of last year. They've lost 2-0. Like, Maguire's got to get them up for it, whether or not they can. Like, we saw Dragons keep them pretty close. It's just, if they're not, then yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. I don't feel as confident. I think all the crowd will flock to Folongo now with those big scores, and he might not dish up as high as what you think. Definitely could, but one of those low score weeks are coming. And, you know, the Broncos, if they're up for this, it could be this game. I know it's in Melbourne.
Amy Park, though, geez, Amy Park. It's going to be a rough trot for Brisbane. I don't think they've looked very good at all. So it's going to be interesting how they turn out. I'll just highlight for draft. Xavier Willison is starting in the second row for Gazewski. I love to get Willison in as a starting second rower as well for draft.
But not even for draft, because he's front row. He played 50 minutes and 40 minutes in the past 2 weeks. If that changes and he keeps that spot and he does a good job, their Broncos draw opens up for him next week.
Yeah, so and he can find the try line.
And that's what I mean. If he's starting on that edge, I really like Willison. And just a quick one, Grant Anderson's come on the wing. They've dropped Shibasaki. Mariners switched into centre. I swept past it before. So that's also a big thing to highlight. Anderson going back to Melbourne against that. So to be honest, this Broncos team looks stronger to me. Shibasaki's on the bench, but it definitely looks stronger than last week. Edges have been the issue. If they can tighten those edges up, you know, you definitely play all your Storm in this. I probably won't play Moses Leo just because the other centre wings have a good matchup too. I can't play them all, and I've already got 3 Storm in this game. So I probably prefer to play a Makasini, a Chester, or Feimani over him because Cowboys are versus the Titans. And Makasini, although he's playing the Bunnies, I'm just waiting for that game where he scores a double, and I'd want to make sure I play him for when he does it.
Knights and Warriors at Newcastle. I think that obviously the obvious news is that Pong is out, but Fletcher Hunt is actually into the number 1. So I think for those that were either holding Fletcher Sharp or looking at buying him at 6 in this side isn't going to be as good. And the other highlight on the other side is Leka Halasima is starting. And for Capel, we're not sure how long he's out for though, but I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps that role.
Niokore as well. The fact he's on the bench now. So
yes. So I mean, there's a couple of really interesting ones in that game.
Yeah. I think you need to wait and see on Leka. It just worries me because he got beaten by Laban for a spot. The minutes are all over the shop. Yeah, there's one Gordon now. There's Niokore. Like one of them aren't going to play 80. Is it going to be Laban or is it going to be Leka? Because Leka's been absolutely amazing and his average when he plays 80 minutes is massive. But the issue that I have with him is his minutes. Jackson Ford's another one that's been tempting if you wanted to go front row.
Leading the Dally M's.
And his base has been great. You take out that try, he still scores 70. He looks like a pretty safe for 65 to 75 each week. So it's tempting, but it's just like a trade like that is hard for me to do right now when there's all these other cheapies and big guys to get. So he'll be a kind of forgotten, he'll be one that not everyone's able to grab, but he'll be pretty solid for you.
The next one is the Sharks and the Dolphins. And boy, oh boy, talk about an option. Last year at Shark Park, Nicho Hynes scored 137 points on the Dolphins. And he is also sporting a mid-80s average against them. Only 3 games though, so that's why. But killed him last year. The Sharks love playing at Shark Park. I thought that the Dolphins looked poor last week. If they make a lot of those errors versus Sharkies this week, the Sharkies we know can put on points at home. So, you're talking about options here. A standout option for me is for Nicho Hynes to have the armband in the C. He's coming off 41 points, so I think people will stay off him. But he can bounce back and definitely get towards a ton against the Dolphins, I think.
Yeah, my original plan before I brought Cleary in was definitely the C on Hynes. I thought definitely my side is the best option. It'll be somewhat of a pod C. I think most of the players that have him will captain him. And the Dolphins have looked a bit off, and he loves playing at Shark Park. It's just more so there are days where if he didn't score that double in round one, there are days where Trindle is going to take some off him and steal the show. And when that happens, if Nico Hines can't capitalise on it, the Sharks could win 36 and he be on like a 70, which here you want to bank a ton. I think this week you've got to nail that captain to get a ton, I think, because there's some high-owned players that are going to go nuts. And I think that's going to be the difference of this round. So my thoughts are constantly changing as we're going through in Barnesy, because I think it's going to be a tough round.
It's going to be a tough round, and it'll separate a lot of teams. I'll just highlight before we move along the pod that I loved on the preseason podcast, but I like him every year for a run. Sione Katoa, he just goes hard. I just love him as a winger. 82 average at the moment, Mikey. 91 and 72 points the last 2 weeks, with 72 against that Panthers side that smacked him. He scored both weeks, and I reckon he's going over for a try again this week and at least 70 plus. So 547,000. He's been a bargain pod. I wish I went him over Greg Marju. Marju was good the first week. He scored a try last week too, but only for 53 points. But Katoa has been great. So just going to highlight that little pod. Move along, though, because we're limited on time. The Rabbitohs and the West Tigers. This is a big matchup. The Tigers look great, put on heaps of points last week. You got Dewey with the ton. Luai looked better in his more natural 6 type of role, had 4 try assists. So all of a sudden you're looking and go, wow, this could be a really high scoring matchup. I already mentioned I really like Latrell Mitchell in that one. That's my highlight for it. Obviously couldn't captain him or anything, but I'm glad that I own him. Tallis Duncan is starting in the second row here. That's going to be key as well. The 2 second rowers up against each other. Kai Pearce-Paul looks like a great option at 600k if you want to go for a pod second row gun that could have a breakout year. But likewise, I'm watching Tallis Duncan in the coming weeks, because coming off the bench for the first 2 rounds, he's going to start to drop in value a little bit, and he could become a bit of a value buy in the coming weeks as well.
Yeah, agreed. It's going to be a tough one. Obviously, the Bunnies on the bye next week. But yeah, the Tigers have been really good. So yeah, Kai Pearce-Paul's definitely on the radar. If you can back it up with another good performance, and the fact he only scored 3 tries at the Knights last year, he scored 2 already in his first game. So at 600k, he'll be heavily brought in if he can back that up.
Dragons and Eels. Look, the Dragons do have Little on the bench. So they've got a bench of Couchman, Laurie, Kerr and Little if you go off their top 17. But Sele is jersey 18 with Max Fainai as the 19th man. So there's every chance that Little doesn't even play and they just go for the 4 forward bench. But if Little's fit, you'd expect him to probably take minutes off Damien Cook. Now, does Damien Cook play minutes in the middle, or does he just play like 50 minutes? It's going to be an interesting one to watch and see, because there's obviously a lot of Dragons in that rotation that people have. Both Couchmans and also Hamish Stewart are all quite popular. And that's probably the highlight for me for this one, to see how this rotation actually works with Little in there. But I will throw out there that from this week, the Dragons actually have a pretty enviable run of games. It has made me look at someone like Valentine Holmes in my planning. I could see him going well this week against that Eels backline. He's gone 54 and 94 the last 2 weeks, but they now have the Eels this week, followed by the Titans, followed by the Cowboys in Sydney at home, followed by Manly at Wynn Stadium, followed by South Sydney, and then the Roosters. It is a fantastic month of football coming up from this week onwards. The Cows and Titans finish it up, and the Titans were actually very competitive last week against the Dolphins, but I will say Dolphins made a lot of errors. And even though this is still in Queensland, they still have to go to Townsville, which is a pretty tough place to play. I am looking at it going, wow, Laybutt didn't take Chester's spot, but he is in jersey 18, and it's the last game of the round. That's super annoying, because you'd expect there wouldn't be a late change, but Laybutt is there, and he was preferred in prior seasons. It's a bit tough. Well, I've already tipped my hat at Drinkwater. I've already discussed it. So, I'm just going to finish up on that. The numbers all say it's going to be good. The Cows have still finished like 10th and 12th and stuff in prior seasons when he's killed it. I know that they look bad, but it still seems like there could be points in this one. That is good luck, everybody, with your decisions, because me and Mikey don't even know what ours are going to be. That's how hard it's going to be. But make sure you grab the podcast and you subscribe, YouTube, iTunes and Spotify. Follow us on social media everywhere as well, X, Facebook and Insta. It's a really tough week. Be back with a TLT next week. Can't wait to talk to everyone again real soon.
You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid.